Afternoon, everybody. Give it that minute to let people log on. Out in the sticks here, so hopefully the video doesn't cut up. All depends on the satellite overhead, I guess. But give it a few minutes, see if the video goes through, see if people come on. We're going to have a good talk leading up to this afternoon. A lot of developments worldwide here, and it's been kind of a crazy evening, morning emails. I want to do this. So I see people are coming on. This is extremely important to everybody as news continues to unfold here. And we got a serious problem with Canada. I've addressed this with a lot of you, a lot of my followers, for quite a number of months. Here and there I've touched on it. But now, in the last 24 hours specifically, a lot of things have developed. I've wrote up anti-vaxxers and green environmentalists, and here's the issue here. Whether you believe in the virus or not is not really the issue. Whether you believe in vaccination or not having a vaccination is not the issue. The issue is the freedom of individuals to make their decision whether they want a vaccine or they don't want a vaccine. And why I get into the green environmentalism is because there's a specific type of person out there, a specific type of character that seems to think that their rights trump everybody else's rights. I have never ever welcomed any kind of following or type of people that champion any kind of autocracy whatsoever. I've been a staunch libertarian. I've advertised myself that way, and I've never shied away from that. Never once ever. And for people to understand what I'm talking about here, I don't enjoy the Green New Deal environmental extremists or anti-vaxxers. And what's happened in 24 hours here, people who lined up to get vaccines were absolutely blocked from receiving, and they ended up shutting down that site yesterday late in the United States from people who lined up to get vaccines. It's not your right to restrict rights and freedoms of people to make individual choices. These are individual rights and freedoms, something I hold absolutely dear. And why this is troubling, whether we're talking about those green environmental extremists that spike trees and the poor logger comes along and hits one of those spikes and is killed, or whether it's somebody going out and blocking train tracks so that goods and services can't free flow across the provinces, which I definitely got involved with. Anyone who's followed me and the work I've done with First Nations, I absolutely got involved in all that. I've never been afraid to go out to reserves, go out to meet band chiefs, or even talk to band councils. Never, ever, ever been. I champion every individual's rights and freedoms. I support that. I support property rights and how we get there. So what troubles me is when people say that they want all these rights and freedoms, yet they're the first ones, it seems, on the extreme side, whether that's the alt-right or the alt-left, and specifically the anti-vaxxers, and specifically these environmental radicals who seem to think that their rights and beliefs trump every other individual's rights and beliefs. I'm not saying condemn minorities, but when the minority says, you know what, I don't care what other people's rights and freedoms are, I'm going to enforce what I believe in, whether anyone likes it or not, and I'm going to force my will upon them. This is not the kind of individual that will ever accept any kind of rights and freedoms for the people. Absolutely not. Because once you embark on a path that absolutely enforces the idea that your rights and freedoms are more important than anybody else's, you absolutely strip any concept of any kind of societal rights and freedoms for the individual, which means you will draft a society that will not have the rights and freedoms that were fought for in World War II and absolutely cemented worldwide. We see it in a great amount of countries today, and look no further than Canada with radical agendas from both the alt-right or the alt-left. We're seeing that each and every day, and I'm clearly seeing that now too, even as I see these people come on my timeline and they think that it's okay to champion their narratives and push it on everybody else. And they'll use terms exactly like the radical environmentalists, but somehow they're not radical at all. They're somehow subject and free to express themselves in a manner of stripping rights and freedoms of other people. And they say that that's acceptable, that it's their right to promote their views and agendas on somebody else's platform because they can't do it on their own because nobody wants to follow them. You see what I'm getting at here? People love to say freedom of speech, but when is your freedom of speech taking away somebody else's freedom of speech or the rights to their intellectual property or rights to their platform? I've heard this kind of line of crap from so many radicals who will come forward and say, oh, you're banning free speech, or you won't let me post my agenda on your platform or in one of your groups, even though the narrative of the group is absolutely laid out and why you're to be there. You're not there to champion your specific rights in removing somebody else's rights. That's never, ever been anything I've ever championed in my entire life. I'm very religious. I don't particularly want a COVID-19 vaccination. I've looked and measured in my own. Those are just my personal rights and freedoms. But do you ever hear me pushing that on all of you, that you will do this or you will do that? No. I outline everybody's rights and freedoms to choose which they want and condemn nobody. Condemn nobody unless they're championing to remove somebody else's rights and freedoms because they've deemed their rights and freedoms above everybody else. And that is the fundamental flaw, especially in Canada, and a growing problem in America, which they're addressing. These people are going to be pushed into the radical side, registered as radicals. Call it a cult. The U.S. has done it several times. Terrorism, they're going to do that too. It's already being pushed by our radical left, Justin Trudeau. However, he won't address the radical left, but he's absolutely going to biasly just attack the one side of the right. Even though I agree when somebody I determine is radical is when they say, I have my rights and they absolutely trump everybody else's, and I won't let anybody else have their narrative. That is wrong. It's wrong on so many levels, whether it's religion, and people like to dictate how these charter rights and freedoms go, how they interpret them to mean for them, at the absolute expense of somebody else's determination of that, instead of just respecting the difference. See what I'm saying here? And many post on my Facebook, and they'll say, oh, it's this way or the highway, or if you champion this, there's something wrong with you. And no, it's absolutely you. It's you who's got the problem. And you should be gone. To me, you're no different than the radical green socialist reset, great reset people, the radical environmentalists. You're absolutely no different. When you come along and say, this is what it is, I don't care what you have to say or anybody else, I have no respect for somebody else's view on anything, it's my way or the highway. then keep that on your platform, because if you can't respect people's right to choice or people's right to believe something that you don't believe in or hold rights and freedoms that are important to them, and you say, no, those rights shouldn't be available, you're an autocrat. Hate to tell you, you're an absolute autocrat. And there is absolutely no difference between you and that other side that you hate so much. You're exactly the same thing. This is the utter con job of our political system, and it's what's driven the mighty wedge between all Canadians. And people who can't see through that, you've already been radicalized by one party or the other, and that's absolutely what's happened to you. And you can say in the name of religion or in the name of agenda for other rights that you're absolutely right and nobody's entitled to believe or view or see things in another way or have a personal idea towards something else, and you say they shouldn't have that. You're a radical. You're no libertarian. You don't champion any kind of charter rights, let alone civil rights. And you're absolutely going to be the cause of why we lose so much more. That's the reality. Second part of this now, we're going to get into the second part of this video in the last 24 hours. So Canada, as the news is reporting, but they still won't tell you what I've already shared with all of you, and I have absolutely the data to back it up, is how many immigrants have flooded into Canada over this entire COVID year, doubling from January 1st all the way to the end of the year. Beyond that is just how many people have been allowed to travel all over the world or flee their countries with already permanent Canadian citizenship or permanent resident status in other countries such as Hong Kong, who've been able to flee because they have that citizenship to UK and absolutely use that to come to Canada. It's been millions over the last year, and it's to be millions of more this year. Absolutely full open doors. And why I get to this is because Canada, per person per capita, has had the most foreign travelers into Canada, massive immigration, meaning absolutely creating permanent residence here in Canada beyond any country in the world by an absolute massive large margin during COVID. Now, again, this isn't for whether you believe it or not, scandemic or not. The reality is all the science says there's a COVID. All the science says there's a bunch of variants. And this is absolutely about the Liberals, the CPC, and the NDP. In all your narrative, we have absolutely New Zealand stats. I don't know if Albertans and Canadians realize this. Right now in New Zealand, in a population of 5 million, so 600, a little over 600,000 more citizens than the province of Alberta in the country of New Zealand, they've only had 25 deaths since the pandemic started. They're the only country that at the very start of the pandemic closed absolutely down all immigration and any travel into and out of the country except for absolute essential services and any citizens coming back to return. But upon that, you weren't able to go out and come back. They've been on this since March of 2020. They have absolutely the lowest statistical cases of any COVID whatsoever. They absolutely ended their immigration. The WHO advised a whole bunch of other things outside of that narrative that New Zealand had participated in on their own country's decisions and analysis. And if you look at the numbers from Alberta to absolutely New Zealand, we are 10,000% worse off than New Zealand is, with absolutely way more restrictions, masking, social distancing, and shutdown of all our businesses. New Zealand is still hosting sporting events. You can go watch a football game and pack a stadium with 30, 40,000 people. They've been doing this since March of last year. They have only had 25 confirmed deaths of COVID-19. They have 0 variants in their country. They caught a couple trying to get in, 3 nailed before they could even get on into the airport. They were already shut down. Not Alberta, not Canada. And in fact, we rank 61 out of 75 absolutely tested countries. Canada has the absolute top of the G20. We're absolutely the worst showing in COVID-19. And we're a very large country, very dispersed with very little density. It does not make sense for a province as big as Alberta with such a small population to have the COVID statistics it has. It is absolutely 110% factual. It has everything to do with massive immigration, massive migration to Alberta, and absolutely unrestricted bordered flights from all over the world to Alberta. Your government absolutely killed everybody, whether you believe in COVID or not. The science, the WHO and the numbers absolutely tells you today that CPC, Liberal and NDP have killed an astronomical amount of Albertans, let alone all Canadians, for no good reason except for to fill their boots in their own pockets. We are 61 out of 75 countries. Of the G20, we're dead last. We've had massive migration, massive travel to this country and to the region of Alberta that absolutely is attributed to our massive numbers and our worst absolute showing on COVID-19, with one of the most serious restrictions seen worldwide. That's reality. We've participated in the worst restrictions, the masking, the social distancing, and absolute shutdown of businesses. Besides the UK, which is way smaller, way more denser, and absolutely processes all the travelers more often than not from all the countries that then go on to go to Canada to fill all those immigration numbers. To accept so many from China, especially Hong Kong, who are absolutely massively infected. And they've already proved to everybody, whether you believe in this or not is not the issue. The reality is the science that they have shared, what statistics we know today, regardless if you believe or you don't believe, your government says they believe. They told you this is reality, and the world numbers versus Canada show Canada grossly murdering their population in the face of their own science, their own statistics. And when placed against world numbers, your governments, all 3 of them, have absolutely participated in your absolute genocide. That's a fact. An absolute 110% fact. Whether you believe or you don't believe. And if people aren't picking up what I'm throwing down here, I don't know what to tell you, because your government has done this to you, yet somehow you're still getting all the numbers. And it's absolutely only attributed to immigration and travel. Permanent citizens, some Canadian citizens who actually live overseas are not really Canadian citizens, but they get that status because that's the constitutional system of our monarchy. And we absolutely follow foreign interest and are in bed with foreign interest. We've participated in the most aggressive immigration program ever seen in any country in the world during COVID-19. The absolute highest per person per capita. Your government, in the face of all of their science, all of their experts, and all world data on COVID-19, has absolutely participated in the genocide of all Canadians. Think about that. Your businesses ruined, your lives ruined, robbed of all your wealth, bankrupted. None of this in any way, shape, or form is legal in world binding law. It is absolutely the opposite. The binding power of the five did not issue this. They issued a pandemic. They voted on a pandemic. And none of them participated in massive unemployment, massive business closures, or massive immigration. Canada by far is the worst nation in the world in these respects. This is what Liberals, CPC, and NDP jointly have all participated in Canada. Any federal party holding seats in Parliament has participated in this since March of 2020. And they've only doubled it going into 2021, telling you you have to wear double masks. Get ready for a phase 3 of lockdowns, they say. Meanwhile, UK has only had 25 deaths, whereas Alberta is almost at 1,000. And they're even more populated than Alberta. But they had no immigration and no travel. Zero. Unless you were a super essential service brought in to absolutely keep the country going. Very, very limited. Very limited. And they have no rates nowhere near Alberta. And in fact, like I said, all businesses fully opened. People fully public dining. No restrictions on how many people can go to a restaurant. Sporting events continue on. People sitting beside each other, absolute strangers in stadiums, 30, 40, 50,000, rock concerts, you name it. It all has been going on since March of 2020. And they have no real outbreaks. Very, very few comparatively. Your government has destroyed your lives, destroyed your livelihood, increased unemployment to radical levels, not seen since the Great Depression, ruled world illegal, that no way, shape, or form we should be going through here in Alberta, but the absolute massive migration, the absolute published focus on pushing everybody into Alberta from all over the world, from all the countries with the absolute variants. Whether you believe in pandemic or not, the world has said it's real. The binding powers have said it's real. Every country in the world says it's real. All scientists are saying this is real. Even your Canadian specialists who absolutely did isolate it, even though they were cut out. So whether you believe it or not, this is what your government says is truthful. All their stats provided are supposed to be truthful, and the science they roll out is truthful. So if that's the case, then all the world stats by the same lead countries are absolutely truthful, which absolutely means your government has killed you, your family members, destroyed your livelihood, absolutely unemployed you, and absolutely stolen everything you have or ever are going to have. That's what your country's done to you. Liberal, CPC, and NDP. Bloc did not champion these things. They're the only federal party with seats in the parliament who are absolutely against the immigration. The other three mainstream parties absolutely fully endorsed it, which means they absolutely fully endorse genocide. And there is a story coming out right now on The Who, and an absolute look into that president running that organization, funded through China. USA's coming back on board with them. But during the time of Donald Trump, they red flagged this because now he is an issue with his role in Africa under ministry on genocide himself. It looks like it's going to the International Court of Justice, which is where I'm really thinking about taking our federal parties to, with all the data, with absolutely all the science, with absolutely all the binding laws of the five. Now, right now, USA doesn't have a sitting rep. UK has absolutely pulled Karen Pierce back. I don't know if she has authority to sit in that role, as they've reduced her to absolutely just America UK rep. So I don't know. It's their way of sitting out. But does that mean China, Russia, and France get the vote, and USA and UK sit it out? Time will tell. We'll find out. But I'm thinking real hard about pushing that letter forward. And let's hold Justin Trudeau, Jagmeet Singh, and Aaron O'Toole absolutely to account. Let them justify the mass travel, the massive immigration that no other nation has participated in anywhere in the world. Canada is number one on that list. The most travelers per capita. And with such, like I said, a large country, so dispersed, are massive levels. And when you measure it all, we're 61 out of 75 nations. Absolutely dead last in the G20. A first world nation, apparently. But somehow we're performing worse than the worst third world countries with no resources, no ability to purchase anything or real supplies. But yet somehow we've ended up on that loser list. That's because we're being scammed by an absolute power of the liberal, conservative NDP agenda to absolutely participate in your genocide, your bankruptcies, your absolute restrictions in order to destroy your livelihoods, driving unemployment through the roof to levels not seen since pre-World War II. Absolutely illegal in this world. I'll be getting on to more of this in the coming 24 hours. I do have an important meeting tonight via Zoom, as well as Tuesday I have an important meeting to participate in as well too. But everybody, this is important. This is where we have to go, and this is what we have to look at. Is your government trying to kill you? Because that's absolutely what it looks like. And everybody, go look at New Zealand. Go look where they're at. Look at their numbers, their statistics. Measure that against Alberta. And you will find absolutely it's all to do with international travel to Canada and to the region. Absolutely radical immigration during a world voted on by the binding power, international law, a pandemic, a registered pandemic. Canada agreed that that was the truth. They've told you all what the science is. That's what they swear by. But yet they participated in all of these radical moves that absolutely don't make sense in a pandemic whatsoever. Where's their science on that? We have 106 different versions of COVID-19 right here in Canada, because we absolutely have participated in the most worldwide travel and the most immigration per person per capita. Sorry to keep repeating, but people roll in. People got to hear it, and then it'll get shared out. Thanks, everybody. Have a better Sunday, but it's not looking good. We're in one of the worst countries in the world today. Absolutely the worst governments. All aisles. Worst by far. Thanks. Bye now.